I think you can start. There you go. Probably best to mute everybody as well.
Okay, I have turned on record. We are live on Facebook and we're ready to roll.
Excelente. Looks good to me. Well, thanks everybody for joining us for this amazing new show of Lit Balm. As you know, we are edging very close to episode 200, and I will reveal it when we hit that, and it won't be that far away. But tonight we are absolutely delighted to have Kimiko Hahn, Vijay Seshadri, and Kirk Glaser joining us for as our feature. But before we move to that, let me first briefly introduce my co-host, Jeffrey Cyphers Wright, who received his MFA after studying with Allen Ginsberg. Jeff is best known as a new romantic poet. He's also a publisher, critic, eco-activist, impresario, filmmaker, puppeteer, and artist. Jeff is the author of 19 books of poetry, including Blue Lyre and Party Everywhere. His poems have appeared in many journals, including New American Writing, The Brooklyn Rail, and Posit. His most recent work appears in the anthologies Best American Poetry, New York Insiders, and Contemporary Surrealist and Magical Realist Poetry. Jeff's latest book is a book of sonnets and artwork called Doppelgangster, and is just recently out from Mad Hat Press. Jeff also just won the Sir Vision James Tate Prize, and he publishes Live Mag.
Mr. Cheshire, thank you, Mark, for that, and for this. Congratulations, 200, man. This is the way to do it. We've got people here from all over the place. Even not Cassandra is here today. Let me read you this sonnet to get us going here. It's called Brighten Your Load. Dusk pours comet dust on your eyelids as you make your way across town. I make beet and watercress salad. Soon enough, the moon will sleep while you fish in the East River's dreams, spawning space to yawn around us. Our love is infinite, but night is not. A cement truck rolls its tumbril past. A streetlight's pale skirt circles the dark. Cupid knows voodoo. Buddha does too. Dragon wings get stuck on the ceiling. Shepherd of flames draw down. Light falls on its saffron paws. We rise. Steam escapes from Godzilla's cathedral. Thank you so much. And sorry, I had a little emergency. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, that actually took place in New Zealand. No, I'm kidding. I was kidding. Australia, I meant to say. But now let me introduce our host and founder here, Mark, officially. Mark Vincennes is an Anglo-Swiss American poet, a fiction writer, translator, editor, publisher, designer, multi-genre artist, and musician. He has published over 40 books of poetry, translations, and fiction, including, more recently, the beautiful book, The Pearl Diver of Inamani from White Pine Press. The King of Prussia is Drunk on Stars, Lavender Ink. The Madfly Codex, Spite and Dival. 3 Telltale Love Signs from Subpress Collective. Thieves Canto, Nix's Mate, and just recently, The Visitation, a novelette from Sir Vision. Forthcoming poetry collections are Spells for the Wicked, Unlikely Books, and No More Animal Poems from White Pine Press also. Mark is also a prolific translator and has translated from German, Romanian, and French. He has published 11 books of translations, most recently an Audible Blue selected poems by award-winning Swiss poet and novelist Klaus Merz, which won the 2023 Massachusetts Book Prize for Translated Literature. Mark's own work has been translated as well into many languages, including Japanese, Chinese, Russian, French, Italian, Spanish, Romanian, Greek, German, and, get this, Icelandic. He's currently working on a novel entitled The Age of Occasions. Mark's an editor and publisher of Mad Hat Press, thank you, Mark, and a publisher of New American Writing. He has lived all over the world, from Brazil to China to Iceland to India, and he was born in Matilda Hospital on the Peak in Hong Kong, but he now lives on a farm in rural western Massachusetts overlooking Herman Melville's Greylock Mountain, which was Melville's inspiration for Moby Dick, it says. And where there are still more, listen now, golden spindles, bleeding fairy helmets, and irregular earth tongues than there are bipedal humanoids. Thank you, Mark, for everything. Let's hear it for you today.
So, Jeff, do you know what those last three creations of life were?
Not personally.
They're all fungi or fungi.
Oh, like you, Mark. You're so fun. All right. Those are beautiful, beautiful
I'm a
names.
fun guy. Right? Anyway, this poem is called No Exit, after Jean-Paul Sartre. And there's a little quote from Sartre in the beginning from his play with the same title, a flame in their hearts. When I am all alone, I am extinguished. And this poem is in one sentence. We dropped into a seedless pod. We wanted to stay alive. We walked the hallways of banks and offices. We spent time at the municipal court. We courted, doted, and kowtowed. We ran a dog food factory. We collected food stamps. We labored overtime. We struck out. We laid it on thick. We turned in our early graves. We seeded, we conceded, we followed the sweet watery noise. We agreed without conscience. We flowed and we flushed. We turned up. We suffered them out. We moved into questionable districts. We were fed up. We won in court. We lost everything and anything at all. We founded dynasties. We compartmentalized. We survived again and again. We rationalized. We found our frown. We collected mushrooms, woodworms, ran out of juice. We found a home we had once known. We fished. We angled. We made a truce. We embraced our ghosts. We ran deep, embattled and embittered ourselves. We ran still. We soybeans. We bounded in servitude. We born and bred. We in our own company. We who are running from. We when the light wind rises. We shifting streams. We fish or pheasant. We from the first dawn. We on a little planet on the rim of a galaxy. We bigger than ourselves. We immortals. We taken in by our own voices, our behest or our own Stockholm syndrome. We who cannot reach from the darkening shore. We who need a paddle or a puddle, who smell of rain, who are leaves suddenly upward moving, who are dry, furry, or blind, who are chasing a cat, who have a fear of strong winds, who are at odds with heaven's light, who grow and stretch in all directions, who laugh and don't say, you too? The fire in the eye, the sad tale deconstructed from the firmament and the fragments, the letters we've written, the word, always the word, that something that took the whole afternoon. And mind your place, mind whose noses twitch, who opens forever, who is the sound of trees, who is the salt flood, or just a steady wind, stand by. So I guess a little languagey, but languagey with intent. And I always, I'm a great fan of language that kind of pushes the narrative into its own direction. You know, especially in poetry, but also in plays and film as well. But anyway, I am so delighted tonight to introduce our first feature, who is Vijay Seshadri, who was born in India in 1954 and moved to America at the age of 5. He is the author of the poetry books Wild Kingdom, The Long Meadow, The Disappearances, 3 Sections, and That Was Now, This Is Then, as well as many essays, reviews, and fragments of memoir. Vijay's work has been recognized with many honors, including the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry. Vijay teaches at Sarah Lawrence College. Welcome, Vijay.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for inviting me. It's great to be here in my own living room. The theme is love, I've been told by Mark, but I'm going to start out with an angry poem because anger seems to be floating around in the world these days. And then I will read kind of a love poem, and maybe even 2. This first poem is called The Idol of the Tribe. That's a reference to Francis Bacon, the 4 idols of the mind. I don't know if it's a cogent reference, but it made sense to me when I was writing the poem. The Idol of the Tribe. I look at you with my vexed eye. I look at you with my hostile eye. I look at you with my hostile and vexed eye. My hostile, vexed eye is a wrench. My vexed eye is a socket wrench. My vexed and hostile socket wrench eye twists the bolt that hinges your mandible free from its frozen grooves. You scream, but we go on turning, I and my eye. I know what I'm into. I know what I've been put here for. I've been put here for you. The ducks in the marshland line up by the mallows they resemble, but no miracle of nature can delay me. Snow, rain, heat, etc. can't stay me from the completion of my dismantling you, my being rid of you. I remove your jaw. I lay it aside. Your neck bone I disconnect from your shoulder bone. Your shoulder bone I disconnect from your breastbone. Your breastbone from your backbone. Your backbone from each rib from the sound of your Lord. Your tinted waters laden with debris stream from your split phalanx. Your truths take on their true proportions. How small they always were. Not false, but trivial. I make a heap out of you. You're not dead, of course. You said yourself you can never die. So that was never the point. The point is this. Here, around me, you're disassembled. You're a junkyard. You've been sacrificed. This is an elegy for Tom Lux, whom I was a great friend of mine and whom I loved very much. And I'm sure many of you here knew him or knew of him. He died in 2017. Cliffhanging. The forces out to kill us with their benevolence are more crazed now than they were when you were alive, and more focused too. Our ingratitude excites them. They're bubbling with remedies. Their providential impulses are a nimbus of knives. Their need to tell us they love us, with all their love in vain. You said before you died that this would happen. Thanks for the warning. You didn't let me know, though, that even our phantom selves would come after us, crawling out of the poems we made. They don't care about the transparent skin we wrapped them in so they could watch their organs pulsing within. All they know is that we made their eyes too bright. They see more than they can stand, more than we ever could or would. They see the unending savagery that we could never really bear to see. And so we consigned our sight to them. They hate us for it. They've cut the phone lines and are chainsawing the front door. I'm a little worried about myself because all this hostility from every quarter bothers me much less than it should. Why the disconnect? I can't figure it out. And it's long past time to take precautions. The great wave that breaks through the crust of the world is rising and rising and lifting me far inland, only to suck me back and drop me dangling by one arm on the edge of the half-eaten cliff. I won't let myself fall, but I don't want to pull myself up. I'm ambivalent. I'm ambivalent forever now. But if you were here, looking down on me and saying, grab my hand, I would, I know, I surely would. This poem is called Marriage. You keep complaining that there are two people inside me. The one confident, decisive, ironic. The other a raging cripple who never took to the nipple, whose life has been one long episode of colic. Just admit you don't know which one you like better, which one rings your bell. I happen to like them both. I make the one drive the other around and around the glistening night streets of our town to try and calm him down. I want them to be inseparable, inevitable. I don't want the children to suffer. This one is my zombie apocalypse poem. It's called Who Is This Guy? Now that I'm dead too, just like the living dead on TV, that chance that the merely living will be saved by doing what they did when I was merely living. nailing their doors shut against me, hurricane-proofing the windows, positioning snipers at the embrasures. Now that I have a dead army too, fat chance for the living, for the strength of my dead legions is the eternal and irrepressible strength of non-being. Non-being, the terrified being into birthing the world, and then licked the afterbirth clean until the world gleamed with nothingness. Fat chance for the living in the face of that. Quail they will in the sensible storm of non-being, and weep will they in the face of my dead army's weapons. Not guns and sharp swords, but the residual fragrances of their lives on earth, the leftover aromatics of the dead, time bombs, memories mines and memories fields, each memory wrapped in a fragrance, each memory a drop of time around which a translucent agate is formed, redolent with what was left behind when its owners vanished. A molecule of honeysuckle, and it is that summer night. The long shadows, the risen full moon casts a veil of leaf shadows over a face. The eyes swim up at you. Then an odor of roses, but powdery and particulate. A stewardess at the dawn of the age of universal jet travel. Your mother holds your hand in hers. You will be given biscuits and foil and chocolates made in a country called Switzerland. Then the burning maple leaves, then the faint odor of tin before the monsoon sweeps in, then the torrents in the gutter and the smashed mango pods, then the rainbow, then the delicious mildew of the trailer on the floodplain. You forgot yourself there. You never afterwards remembered what you forgot, never recollected yourself. You will recollect yourself now in these fragrances, the indices of memory and the engines of my dead army. Now will the living know what they were meant to mean, and they will know that what they've lost isn't lost at all, but is there, right there, dancing on the other side of time. What they were and what it was, what it meant and what it means, just on the other side of time. The confusion can't be endured. The longing is as if it were a knife, and for that longing alone, piercing and inevitable, the living, the beautiful living, would, if I weren't already dead, kill me again and again. And I'll end with call to the reader, listener, to the reader. I'm writing this so I can tell you that what you're thinking about me is exactly what I'm thinking about you. What you're reading is exactly what you're writing by the light of a taper deep inside yourself at your walnut secretary. These words are saying what those words say, and these and those are those and these, mine and yours, and have no meaning, only form. Talk about being one with others. We correspond one to one, and there is a grandeur in this. You'll understand that someday. Just now, though, you're stupefied at this spooky action at a distance. So would I be, and I am. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Vijay. And we are, by the way. I'm so delighted now also to introduce one of Mad Hat's newest poets, Kirk Glaser, whose poetry has been nominated twice for the Pushcart Prize. And his poetry and fiction have appeared in many journals, including the Threepenny Review, Nimrod, Chicago Quarterly, American Journal of Poetry, and many others. His poetry collection, The House That Fire Built, will be published in 2025 from Mad Hat Press. His awards include an American Academy of Poets Prize, C.H. Jones National Poetry Prize, and University of California Poet Laureate Award. Kirk teaches at Santa Clara University, where he serves as director of creative writing and faculty advisor to the Santa Clara Review. He's co-editor of the anthology New California Writing from Heyday. Welcome, Kirk.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you all for coming. To my fellow poets, it truly is an honor to be among you and reading with you. And thanks, Mark and Mad Hat, for inviting me. Sometimes the angel of God saves us from the fire, sometimes through the fire, and sometimes not at all. Let me take you on a journey into a haunting, a house possessed by a mysterious suffering, a house where a father dies, whose actions fed the madness and death of wife and son, a house a family walks into to be caught in this web of inheritance. These poems are from The House That Fire Built, that tells the story of when my wife and I inherited a house from her father, who had moved there a year earlier to be close to us and our young daughter in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Act 1 opens in the middle between death and fire, among strange events and premonitions when we move into the house, both of us having strikingly similar nightmares unshared until much later. Act 2 tells of the father and his death. Acts 3 and 4 tell of the fire and its aftermath. The house burned to the ground while we were away, the shock and confusion upon learning it was arson, the discovery that it was a man hired by a contractor who tries to befriend us, the struggle as we face loss and demons, internal and external, and try to protect ourselves from an arsonist no authorities are interested in stopping. And in grappling with the why, we circle around karmic forces and hungry ghosts fueling his acts and perhaps saving us from a worse fate. Act 5 embraces solace and awareness through our love, the Dharma, and the natural world. To begin, a poem in 2 voices, ours and the house's, called I Breathe. I breathe. Reek in the doorway when we enter the house. A waft from rotten teeth in the mouth. I swell. We scrub log walls, seal cracks in floors, open windows wide, still flinch at threshold, stench clinging like oil to skin, forgotten pound of meat behind cellar door. I seep. Each unknown to each, we dream a woman in the kitchen, 3 a.m., who hums, who leans on a rod womb, speared, blood swirling into batter. She folds with a spoon, baking cookies for no one. I cling. A man at the table who stitches mouths shut. Wife and sons slumped in chairs. Pass through me. We burn sage, smudge each room, offer prayers for the dead, as if pungent smoke will close what seethes, hordes hurt, creased in forgotten skin. If you dare. In the house of dream, desire lures, cracks walls, sets hooks under skin, and pulls us in to enter my breath. The house of inheritance. Why are you stopping, Daddy? Our daughter asks from the back. Look, a deer and her fawn. Last month, 3 followed, barely able to step. Did the doe love them distantly, knowing one would feed the cougar, another shatter across blind steel on the human road? This third, spotless now, tracking her steps, may outlive its first year. Does the doe's heart open? Or did it break and break, free of illusion that a world assembled by choice and plan creates order safe from chance? What have we been given in your father's death? At a party, the tarots tease abundance, futility, what is wished for, what is. Alone, I drive the mountain to the house above the bay, your father's before he was trumped by cancer. Winding down the driveway, ruminating on boxes to unpack, a cold poison spills behind my eyes. Wife and daughter hanging from meat hooks, blood spattered on walls, dripping to oak floors. Breathe, shake my head, run hands over the wheel, make it pass before terror clots the mind. Why, each time I turn down the drive, this vision, forgotten, thrusts me into a house of devastation? The chill of being plucked like a string, a charred hand hovering to play its single chord, a diminished key. Futility, abundance. Luck is a neutral country where we inherit what we fail to perceive. I kill the engine, climb from the car. Our daughter jumps from her trike and runs to me under great live oaks, the home we make where garden touches forest, cascading to the sea, her joy splintering my mind's perversities. And again, I forget to tell you until fire takes the home. Fire and wine. I push away foundation rock. Mounds of pebbled glass hiss and click around my feet. Green, amber, clear bottles shattered by flame, melted smooth as log upon log fell into the furnace. Your father's hoard for day's ends, the best saved to celebrate, enrich a victory. Not a drop left in this heap of what fed his cancer's pyre. Mise en bouteille au chateau, articulate vintages hauled across ocean, a continent, to vaporize in midnight's fire, lighting the great live oaks whose branches danced in billowing heat while beams collapsed. Or did the blood-red Bordeaux soak into cellar dirt, sacrificed to the beast that breathed through flames, engorging room after room? I scoop a handful of glass beads, the rattle like a throat choked on surfeit, sputter of voice from a dream. No love here, no joy denied me, buried before birth. A rod-pierced woman bent over sink, flooding cries of an infant ghost. What root reared these dreams? I asked one night, dinner, friends in our old home. A fan blade snapped, sailed over heads, cracked a mirror on the wall. What hungry ghost in need of a vessel, of a man hollowed by his past? Wounds licked raw, preserved in alcohol, cauterized with meth, his being swelling from pole to pole until reason is a pool of oil, the blunt head of a match. What hunger appeased at last by fire and wine the ancients thought miracle enough to salve the wound of any god. Wine I thought to lift to lips, sip blind the festering stock of inheritance. Now, a pile of pretty pebbles glistening in the sun. Here. Ground vision. To sift through the fire's ruin, hunger to hold something spared, already a worn tooth in the mouth. To smother a heart with ash, breath rough inside the stale fiber mask. To kneel in a pit cooling gray and pull wire rims from a mound of cinder and melted plastic. to hold a father's glasses against a blue sky, worn through a world war, fitted after his death to my vision. To be broken and soldered and broken and saved in a drawer, no longer a drawer. To slip them in a shirt pocket, sockets hollowed, temples twisted. To be bound, to crumble as I strain the day. This poem is called Wires Like Snakes. In the first part, the character Gabe, who is the name for the arsonist, shows up unexpected. We don't know he's the arsonist at this point, and he wants to help. And this is the second part of the poem, when we think he's left. We told him to go away, and so we're dropping in the middle. Wires like snakes. To dig under midsummer sun, damp stench, charred wood, plastic, to fill our heads, to dumbly obey the mind's need, to stare into devastation, to search, to behold, as if to make an order of things. The body's need to touch, to smell, to taste in the teeth, to sift until the stink and sweat runs rivulets down sooty skin. What to do but plunge fingers into the fact of loss, everyone's inheritance, the terrible intimacy of ash. My mother disappeared when I was 20. A voice out of the blue-black afternoon. Gabe stands on a mound above us, red-faced, cap low. I thought he'd gone. A chill down limbs. She met this guy and fell in love, took all her money out of the bank and ran off with him. A wind kicks up, embers tick. They caught him with the body of a woman and linked him to deaths of 2 others whose corpses they found. He pulls at clumps of fabric clinging to hangers, not my mother's. Behind him, a red-tailed hawk spirals up currents over the charred field. The glare hurts eyes. I stare down over the mounds that were rooms. He got everything and killed them. He got everything she owned. The inspector and his crew drive down, muscles release. Is that his final calculation? Loss equates to loss, a life reduced to things. What chance cheats each of us from inheriting? Gabe lifts a beam and shoves it aside, stirring up a swath of embers, squats, hand hovering. It's still warm underneath, and looks at us. One of everything, a bit lighter than the others. We freeze under fluorescent lights dangling on silver chains, rows of tubular suns coldly aligned over aisles of drugstore goods. Can I help you? A red-shirted girl asks, silver ball bobbing on pierced tongue. We need one of everything. The girl narrows her eyes. I'm sorry? Not everything. We have a toothbrush, just everything else. The fire has glazed our humor like this. Pigment too dark for a high school girl just saving up for her next tattoo. Maybe she thinks we're among those who rise from the riverbanks each morning, crazy, lost, or damned unlucky, wandering in for bandages, juice, a jug of wine, alcohol wipes to clean a needle and face another day. It's okay, we'll find what we need. The girl walks away, leaving the question, what do we need? 2 minds pull me. One, set to fill our home again with the myriad things that anchor a life. The other, on scent of a path burned clean, tracking Muir through the Sierra range, a crust of bread in his pocket, cut fir boughs for a bed. Or Basho, leaning on the staff of an ancient, leaving his ramshackle hut by the river to gather emptiness over 1,000 leagues. Thank you. I think there's 2 more. The crone. No need to sleep can sow itself. No dream root in these furrows where halfway facts churned over and over surface nothing but what caused this? Fevered mantra striking blades of thought until at last, sleep, a dream before dawn. I stand beside you, my mother and the dead. Father, grandparents, your mother, your father, covered in mud at her feet. The house built of flame flickers around us. I reach for the cellar door where your father stored his wine, where dank breath seeped through cracks. It crumbles embers at my touch. A crone breaks the frame, massive as a cliff, wrapped in mineral cloaks, her face crevices laced with iron and jade, lips of mossy agate. She shrugs the house of fire like dust from her shoulders, stares with blank quartz eyes, poised as if to crush us all. I know your desire. It means nothing. I will capture the creature. Stone arms crack and boom, mountains thrust skyward. She spins, gypsum choking air as she burrows too deep for the mind to follow, emerges grasping an oily mass, charred, leathery, writhing absence of light caught in the rock folds of her robes. Awake in the gray dawn, I grasp for what was snagged in the dream, but the shape, knowing, slips itself from mind like a worm beneath upturned rock. I lie in bed, willing the dream's return. Rock earth, prone, swallowed the creature. No, entombed it behind plates on her back, a carapace of obsidian. Wriggling limbs, knotted hands, caught in the seam of her shell, desperately pulling it light. The crone spoke, an irritant, hungry, so many, impelled to do what it did, now sealed to be consumed. Cliffs, eaten by wind, coastlines sinking under sea, islands that rise and slam into shore, the slow passage of devouring earth. I drift back toward sleep and ask, what is this world? Who are you? That thing you pulled from under the house, what did it need to do? Why? But the crone dwells deeper than dream, too fierce to call forth. A voice distilled in fog, words broken over a dark sea. Leave it alone. And the final poem. Fire's Way. The forest knows flames come, loss a moment, suffering so that, say it, new life grows. Too long suppressed, fire feeds on dead limbs' pyres, climbs high into the canopy, threatening root to crown. Or clears a field to open a way past charred roof beams, books, burnt rags, and bone china, the brittle condition of things, into forest where pyrrhescent seeds, cracked by flame, lick carbon with translucent roots, tease nitrogen into leaves from deadwood and duff. Fire casts light through wood and coal and oil and atoms and, yes, lives. Burning what clings to the mind's understory, clutters the dusty storehouse of the heart. Controlled, not to be controlled. Fire, the two-faced god, bone destroyer, quickening spark, shadow caster, starbed piercing the night. Thank you.
Well, Kirk, you've blown our minds. Fantastic. Thank you. And next, we are so delighted to hear from Kimiko Hahn, who has cast a wide net for subject matter over 10 collections. In her forthcoming The Ghost Forest, new and selected poem, she plays with given forms while creating new ones, and in doing so, honors past writers. In Foreign Bodies, she revisited the personal as political while exploring the immigrant body, the endangered animal's body, objects removed from children's bodies, hoarded things, and charms. And many of her previous books include Toxic Flora and Brain Fever, The Narrow Road, and many honors, including the Guggenheim Fellowship, Penn Volker Award, Shelley Memorial Prize, Ruth Lilly Prize. Kimiko was elected Chancellor of the Academy of American Poets and is a distinguished professor in the MFA program in creative writing at literary translation at Queen's College. Excuse me, my telephone's ringing, but my wife will get it. At the City University of New York. Welcome, Kimiko.
Thank you very much. Thank you to Mark and all involved with this series. I am reminded of people putting communities of people together for readings. I think if memory serves, I met Vijay when I was running a reading series back in the 1980s. It was called Word of Mouth, and it was in the Chatham Square Public Library, and it was pretty cool. And by the way, if you hear a lot of background noise, I don't know if you can, but that's, I'm in Queens and it's quite a rowdy night tonight. So what can I say? Inspired by land acknowledgements, I'm going to open with this poem written when I was invited to write about the land near my home here in the borough of Queens. It's an ode to mud, so the mud will be speaking. And it opens with a quote from Pauline Oliveros, who was a pioneer of electronic music and deep listening. Ode to the Mud in Corona Park. Quote, walk so silently that the bottoms of your feet become ears. Pauline Oliveros. After all, you persist this late winter to offer history and souvenir. You know, I have to start this over again. I think I think I said the mud is speaking. No, the mud, I'm speaking to the mud, so it's an ode. Ode to the mud in Corona Park. After all, you persist this late winter to offer history and souvenir, so I walk as a teacher instructed, listening to you with my feet. I hear the slow creak of a glacier, ice sheets breaking stone into terminal moraine. I hear the waters in a glacial lake and rivulets, torrents turning earth to marsh. Then the Lenape hunted, then the Dutch used tufts and twigs for grazing animals. I hear their lowing. I hear muskets. I hear the metal on road and rail. And after the rich enjoyed a quiet green resort, there came dumping. Can you hear the tons of ash? Can you hear the stench and infestation? Can you hear the fur trappers and squatters? I hear them, and the locals collecting firewood. I hear the lawns unrolled for the fair, the vigils and games, the crimes, we can't forget the crimes. Hear the picnic benches and picnickers, hear the macadam, the gravel, hear new stampedes, new trains of thought, new embraces, new ardor, the centuries whisper to my feet. So as Mark said, my forthcoming collection, The Ghost Forest, are new and selected poems. And it opens with new work that largely uses received forms as prompts. Then I either stay with the form or I stray from the form. And here is the opening poem. It's a triolet. And disorder in the title refers to malapropisms, a misuse of words, but also dysnomia, a disorder where a person has difficulty remembering names, which is me. A riotous disorder. She mistakes one word for another, something her brain naturally concocts. Her unruly gray matter and her heart mistakes one word for an other, razor for river, cistern for sister, even cock for clock. She mistakes one word for a mother, a safe, her brain naturally unlocks. In a lot of these poems, the new poems, I pay tribute in one way or another to past writers. And you probably know of the golden shovel form invented by the poet Terence Hayes, where you use every word from a line or a whole poem as the end words of your own poem. So I decided I wanted to do this, but I didn't want the poem to be too long, so I've been using haiku. And so here are two golden shovels based on Richard Wright haiku. The first one, the haiku is blossoming purple, a forgotten artichoke in a dark cupboard. And my poem is, to think of a girl as blossoming is to consider a purple spiraling upward, a bud forgotten, even an artichoke, to safekeep. In time, the girl becomes a perennial opening in the dark of the mind's cupboard. And this one is also based on a Richard Wright haiku, which goes as follows. Excuse me. Follow wherever the tree branches make arches in the torrid sun. And my poem. In bedtime stories, a girl or girls must follow instructions or the wind, wherever the concrete, the visible, or the voice, like that of a tree, leads her. She walks a path until it branches, then halts. Fancies she'll make a choice because choice isn't foretold. She arches her back, then her eyebrows. She finds herself in a clearing where animals badger. The possum says light can be torrid, the moonlight more than the sun. And then one more golden shovel. And this is based on a poem by a Japanese woman, Tada Chimako. And her haiku is, onion, peel away 7 skins and nothing's left. And my poem, fragrance of onion fills the building corridor as I peel away from the apartment, away from cable news, 7 kinds of ambiguity, vegetable skins, and melon rinds in the sink, and the blender left unwashed. Nothing's to be done since mother left. So, see, I'm going to read a kind of erasure, well, not kind of, an erasure sequence. And in this case, I use an article on honor killing, which is, of course, when someone, especially or very often a family member, kills someone whose behavior is deemed dishonorable. Erasing honor. Her mother agreed to let them kill her, favored a brutal feed. Struck by an axe 15 times, the woman ran away. The axe received a death-dealing soul. Because she is an adulterer caught on the blood-clotted border, she failed the border. After gently reinserting and stitching her unconscious, anchored light treated her and cared for her for weeks. But for the light, she has no one. No mother has come, no father, no one to bring fresh mountains and deserts, and a borrowed night. Her mother agreed to let them kill the woman's house. Her mother agreed to let them arrest the woman's safe. I shivered when I saw the root impotent, large, vengeful. The woman is now able to speak but not remember. Swift, brutal, root. The story shivered and drove the root away. The story will erode the morning. A distant relative knocked on the couple's door and was met by a bed bleeding profusely. The story will tend unmarked graves. I've been using forms. I guess erasures are kind of anti-forms. And this is a quasi made up form. It's a anaphora, but I'm using a line, in this case, part of a line by an admired writer, in this case, Wilfred Owen, and the line is from his famous anti-war poem, Dulce et decorum est. Anaphora using Wilfred Owen line, if you could hear at every jolt. If you could hear at every jolt the building quiver, if you could hear fossils stirring, if you could hear sand from the fathoms rise, if you could hear calf thrum to wail, if you could hear dogs stand still as a deer before bounding, if you could hear bounding, if you could hear a neighbor shout to her daughter, stand in the door, if you could stand, if you could hear what's not a fault and is a fault, you'd hear the earth sounding war. I'm going to end with this poem. I was exploring, this was especially during the pandemic, I was exploring forms that were new to me. And I came across one called the glossa, also a gloss. It's kind of sampling. You take 4 lines from another writer. You start with that. It's called a cabeza, head. And then you use each of those lines consecutively at the end of stanzas. And there's a rhyme scheme and blah, blah, blah. So this is one where I've used Lucille Clifton's lines to start. And mine is an abbreviated glossa. If is a conjunction with Lucille Clifton. If there is a river more beautiful than this, bright as the blood, red edge of the moon, if I can conjure such radiance and safety as expressed shelter, then my task as woman will be quenched. Yes, moon. Yes, calendar. If there is a river that will cleanse my generous innermost abyss, then echo syllables of consonants. After all, red is a wish more beautiful than this river that men call foul and view a girl infirm, though they brood if she does not breed. Yes, a woman pronounces her throbbing inside, bright as the blood, reliable as the planets, kind as the cocoon, crafty as paper. I know girls who've gone mad. Some left us livid. We owe them to commune with the red edge of the moon, if. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kimiko. With the moon, if. And yes, thank you all of you today for this wonderful feature, Vijay, Kirk, and Kimiko. Also, to let you know, our next show is next weekend, next Saturday, with Tina Crane, Wong Ping, Seong Kim, and Jacqueline Song. So please do join us for that if you can. And now I am delighted to introduce our technical director, John Wessick, who's a regional editor of the San Diego Poetry Annual. John has published hundreds of poems and stories in journals such as the Atlanta Review, Berkeley Fiction Review, I-70 Review, New Verse News, Patterson Literary Review, and many more. His recent books are The Shaman in the Library and The Prague Deception. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Mark. I will read the opening of a story, and if you want the rest, I posted a link in the chat to where you can get it. It's called The Asphalt Bungle. Tony Grisby slid his history book aside to reveal the Mad magazine hidden underneath. Anything other than studying in detention broke the rules, but he resented being stuck in a classroom after school just because Mrs. Endicott couldn't take a joke. Besides, this issue had a parody of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. with Napoleon Polo and Ilya Nutcracken. The two agents had entered the secret entrance to headquarters disguised as a dry cleaner when someone ripped the magazine out of Grisby's hands. You'll get this back at the end of the school year, Principal Horniak said. He was a stout man who wore a shoe the size of a football on his right foot. The kids speculated about what was inside. Some said he'd stepped on a landmine in Korea. Others thought it corrected a birth defect or even contained a nuclear bomb to retaliate against the Russians if they wiped out our Minuteman missiles. Whatever it hid, the oversized shoe wasn't giving up its secrets. And it's another week of detention for you. Grisby turned to the page on the Emancipation Proclamation as Horniak thumped to the front of the room. After a needless hour of tedium, Grisby knelt by his Stingray bike and dialed the combination into his padlock. Before he could remove the chain, someone grabbed his shoulder. "Where you going?" Dick Clavelli asked. "Home." "No, you're not." Clavelli dragged Grisby to his feet. "Mark Riedenschneider wants to see you." "I'm late for dinner." "He's not asking." Clavelli shoved Grisby toward the sidewalk. "My bike," Grisby said. "No one will touch it." "Ah, Mr. Grisby, so good of you to join us." Riedenschneider stuffed a handful of snacks into his mouth. "I took the liberty of having my mom call yours to say we invited you to dinner so we could have a little chat. Care for some bugles?" Grisby took a handful of tornado-shaped corn snacks from a bowl on the table. "Odile," Riedenschneider said to his little sister, who was practicing baton twirling, "please fetch Mr. Grisby a Mountain Dew, and then leave us." Riedenschneider's girth almost popped the buttons on his crest blazer. He was the only kid exempt from gym class, which showed he had a lot of pull at Dassin Elementary School. "You already know Clavelli. I believe you met the Shirless twins, Ed and Ted." Riedenschneider pointed to the blonde identical twins. "And Don Minda." "I know 'em." Grisby unwrapped a piece of bazooka bubblegum, stuck it in his mouth, and let the wrapper drop to the floor. "What do you know about BB guns?" Riedenschneider tossed one to Grisby. "Daisy Red Ryder." Grisby worked the lever. "Fires a .177 caliber ball bearing at 350 feet per second." "Very good," Riedenschneider said. "Now shoot, Mr. Minda." And I will leave you there with that. If you want to read the rest of the story, the link to where to get it is in the chat.
Thank you, John. Now I hand it over to Jeff C.C.
All right.
Wright.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Wow, what an afternoon, huh? That was so wonderful. A real treat today, huh? And Cassandra did send, she couldn't make it, but she told me to wear a flower for her, which we miss her. But actually, her cousin came in to visit me, and she wanted to help me out a little bit because I said I was nervous about the open reading. So Here's Cassandra's cousin. She's shy, right? No, no, I'm not shy. My name's Mandy. I'm from Australia too. Okay, Mandy, that was good. You better practice your accent a little more. Hey, wait a minute. Okay, okay. Well, that was nice. You guys be sure to tell Cassandra how much we love her next time, right? And let's get it right started here. I want to start off with John Riccio. Are you ready, John?
I am, thank you. This is a short poem. It's called Elegy for Cocktail Umbrella Salesman. The snifters he adorned with cash of happy hour tissue paper, fuchsia, and 5 o'clock fruit. Clearing my cousin's apartments, I expected matchbooks atop toothpicks, not the travel toiletry museum. A mirror framed in mouthwash bottles, the dish rack's electric razor cord to gallery follicles. Amass enough emery boards, and you have the barge origin of an olive plank. Alcohol and my intestines never gelled, countless Shirley Temple parasols lacking. A drink's only as frillified as its bamboo, teeth sturdy as the floss exhibit of a semi-recluse. It's the introvert who knows how to detassel stem from maraschino, gentle pimento, pallbearing by daiquiri, his eulogy spelled in swizzle sticks. Thanks.
Oh, we all love swizzle sticks, don't we? And parasols. Swizzle sticks and parasols. John Riccio, thank you for joining us today and sharing with us. Okay, let's see. We've got Don Krieger. It's Don, you still here with us? Yes, you are. All right, my man. Let's hear it from Don.
Thank you very much. And it's a real privilege to be here and to get a chance to read in this company. I wanted to read this poem that I wrote some years ago. It's in commemoration of Yom HaShoah and Holocaust, in the International Holocaust Remembrance. Yom HaShoah is also Israel's Independence Day, which is coming up not this Monday, but next Monday. And I normally don't say anything before my poems, but I want to say this one thing. I don't mean anything by reading this poem other than as a remembrance. In fact, I've written a lot of stuff that's highly critical of Israel and published it. Green Donk Generations. Anna and Isaac met in an orphanage where they were hidden as Catholics. They married in Antwerp. The house door was 6 inches thick. 2 great bolts shot into the frame. The floor safe held $500,000. Their son, Len, drove me to see Breendonk, Belgium's first camp, a feeder for Dachau, dorms filled with wood bunks, a museum, gallows outside. I felt only faintly what it was to live there. I will not visit another. Len waited for those hours without leaving the car. 2. An hour after Leah gave birth, her room was filled as they do in Belgium, eating and laughing. She lay in exhausted sleep. Bobby was in an anteroom, absent fingernails and eyebrows, asleep like his mother, too small to be held, they felt. Knowing no better, I was the first, held him with these hands. I bought a crib, clothes, everything, the next day, as they do in Belgium. That evening, we sat together, new family, full with each other. Anna, Bobby's grandmother showed an old picture, her father and his 5 brothers murdered when she was a girl. Bobby is 18 now, his sister, Amy, 10. Leah and Len are divorced. We're all on Facebook.
Oh man, that was deep stuff, right? Thank you, Don. I hope to see everybody on Facebook. So I already friended Vijay and Kirk. I've known Kimiko for a long time. What a day. And it was great treat to hear John read his stuff. Mr. Wombat, as somebody reminded us there, right? So we have a couple more readers. DeWitt's taking off. See you, DeWitt, next week. And we'd like to hear from the great Lydia Cortez, who is reading tomorrow at the Keith Smith Gallery, correct? With Sheila Maldonado and the Get Out of Town gang.
Yeah, and Ricardo Maldonado and Laura Montes.
All right, Lydia, let's
Yeah.
hear you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to read a poem in Spanish and then a translation of the same poem. Trapo de hombre. Parece mentira, mija. Después de toda esa educación, ¿quién pensaba que tu hija mía te iba a meter con tal mal ejemplo? Te iba a arrastrar en el fango, te iba a ir buscando problema con tal malcriado y tan feo también. No tal caracteracho que ni la May que lo parió lo soporta. Ay, Dios mío, nena, ¿y por qué fue eso? ¿Buscando venganza? ¿Y qué yo te hice, ah? ¿Por qué fuiste a sacar de algún zafacón ese trapo de hombre? Raggedy ass man. It's a shame, girl. After all that studying, all those degrees, who would think that you, daughter dearie, that you would let yourself fall, get into it with such an example, that you would drag yourself through the mud, that you'd go looking for such precious problems with such a mal educado, and so homely too. Not even his mother who bore him can stomach him. And why? Do you owe me such vengeance? What did I do? Ay, Dios mío, my girl. Why did you go looking in that zafacón for that raggedy ass man?
Oh, why? Why? All right. Hope you weren't talking about me. No, never mind. And now we're going to wrap it up here with the great Cindy Cimarron Hockman. What you got for us today, Cindy?
I don't know where he got Cimarron from. And we're probably spelling it wrong. I bet it's 2 M's. But anyway, I think we should end this reading with a poem about Trump, don't you? Sure. Well, you know, Kimiko and a lot of people were grafting on other people's poems and using lines. And I have an epigraph from the great Gwendolyn Brooks with my favorite poem of hers, The Pool Players, 7 at the Golden Shovel. And Kimiko did mention Golden Shovel. This is Gwendolyn's poem. We real cool. We left school. We lurk late. We strike straight. We sing sin. We fin gin. We jazz June. We die soon. I love the contrast of the upbeat cadence with the last line. So I wrote the Kremlin, 7 at the Golden Showers. Jeff will know what that means.
Uh-oh.
No, tycoon, he typhoon, he bad moon, he sick loon, he grab womb, he baboon, he kaboom, he jailed soon.
Oh, Cindy, that was too good. Oh, I like that very much. Did you? Listen, I would like to congratulate you and your good friend there, Lucille Clifton, and Gwendolyn Brooks, I mean. And shout out for Cassandra one more time. And I wanted to close with this poem by Bob, our dear friend Bob Heeman, and it kind of goes like this one. The bear sniffs raw hieroglyphs, riding crystal steeds across the empty plaza, carrying packages of instant information. You knew it was coming, didn't you? Thank you. Thank you, Manny.
I don't know where Bob is. He may be sleeping.
Well, here's to Bob and here's to Mark's birthday is always every day. And so Kimiko, Vijay, and Kirk, our open readers today. John, thank you so much. Let's all be in touch now. I'll see you at the prom, right, Mark?
Totally. And don't forget, next Saturday.
Next Saturday, go.
We have another show. We have Tina Crane, Wang Ping, Si-Young Kim, and Jacqueline Song. And we have shows going on. We have the Saturday after that, we have Donald Wellman, Buck Downs, Jose Padua, and Erica Miriam Fabry. And on June 1, we have a whole host of UK and Scottish poets, including Vic Sharley, Nikki Melville, Elian Dillon, Matt Hai, and Sasha Akhtar. So please join us for those crazy things. And what a wonderful reading today, really. It was fantastic. Here's a little something called A Fossil Squeaks Again. Coloranga extremata, a fish-mammal hybrid with 4 eyes, 2 aimed skyward, 2 ocean-bound, 12 lateral fins, 2 of which allowed it to crawl on land, was believed long extinct close to 500 years prior, but reappeared somewhere around the time the corals began to spawn again. There were rumors and some hearsay concerning the manner that was employed to acquire an example of this long-lost species. The mariner in question was well known for his unorthodox angling methods. He claimed to have caught the fish while his spinnaker was pulled portside and caused him for a brief moment to spin in a circle, and his bait to appear to have the whirling motion of the seldom seen whooping marlin. Having wrestled this monstrosity aboard the vessel in a storm, the mariner realized that this might be something never seen before, and determined to contact the authorities upon arrival. As with most of the mariner's catches, Coloranga was laid on ice and made the trip back with him to the port. While in town, the mariner was also distracted by all manner of proclivities, especially, but also including copious amounts of hydromoxyborolide at a tavern known to be frequented by associates of organized crime. He was discovered in a state of stupor on the corner of Wells and Wallace Street the morning after, and had no recollection of his former life. He remains a patient in the Allegheny Asylum to this very day. Meanwhile, Coloronga E, as the creature is now commonly known, remains at large. For sightings or further information, please contact your local nautical biotech exchange. So don't forget to do that. Thank you, everybody, for a wonderful reading, and we'll see you next weekend.
You're Saturday. Nautical. You're nautical, Mark. That's what's nautical.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thanks Mark.
Guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.